Hello, everyone. Welcome back once again to the Bold City Civics podcast. My name is Shelton Hull. I'm a local reporter and other things. I'm joined, as always, by the founder of this program, Mr. John Lewis Meeks Jr.
Hello there.
Thanks to all of you for listening. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, the point of our podcast is to provide like little snippets and mini profiles of local politics, local civics, and just showing you how things work here from a structural sense here in town, Northeast Florida, that is. And if this is not your first time listening, thank you for listening as always. And we're going to get right into it. Today's episode talks about the police. You know, there's been a lot of talk about law enforcement, good and bad, over the last few years, a lot of controversial incidents and whatnot. This isn't about that. This is just about the basics of our beloved Jacksonville Sheriffs Office. As you know, 2022 will be the 200-year anniversary, bicentennial that is, of the founding of Jacksonville. We were founded in 1821, incorporated formally in 1822. And 1822 is when we began to have our first actual sheriff here in Jacksonville. In the 1800s, the role of the police was not as systematized as it is now. It's pretty much down to a science all around the country. And as you see with mayors, city councils, things like that, the individual city, the individual locality has a lot to do with how the police force operates and the relationship between the police to the civilian government, etc. Now, our current sheriff is Mr. Mike Williams. He's been sheriff since 2015. He is, I believe, the fifth sheriff during the consolidation era, which began in 1968. By the time consolidation went through in 1968, the sheriff at the time, Dale Carson, had already been sheriff since 1958, so about 10 years. He would continue to be sheriff until 1985, and incidentally, his son, Dale Carson Jr., would later grow up to become a Miami cop and a member of the FBI, and he is currently a lawyer here in Jacksonville, one of my lawyers, in fact. Shout out to him. So Carson was sheriff until 1985, and then from 87 to 91, we had Jim McMillan. 87 to 95. Sorry, Mr. Jim McMillan. And then from 95 to 2003, we had Nat Glover. And then from 2003 to 2011, we had Sheriff Rutherford. I may be wrong with the dates. It doesn't really matter. The Jacksonville Sheriff's Office currently comprises about 2,100 uniformed officers, another 900 or so correctional officers, and about 800 or so civilian employees, community service officers, and whatnot. So we're really a little bit under 4,000 total people on the JSO payroll, which that seems like a lot, but it's not anywhere, even in the top 20 of largest police departments in the country. The largest, incidentally, is, of course, the NYPD, which has 36,000 uniformed officers and another 19,000 civilian employees, for a total of about 55,000 people. The JSO budget currently is right in the neighborhood of $480 million or so dollars, which takes up about 65%, if not more, of the city's annual budget. The police department has an interesting job in a city like this because the city is very large. So we rely very heavily on police substations. There's always, wherever you're at right now, there's probably a police substation within 5 miles or wherever you happen to live, and more coming along every day. As the population of the community grows, it grows in different pockets. And as those populations increase, that's where they decide where to put the substations and whatnot. The sheriff's department and the sheriff's office and the sheriff himself are essentially independent entities. The sheriff runs his own shop. The police are essentially not accountable to anyone in this city, which some people have a problem with, others do not. but how do I put it? The office of sheriff is an elected position. So when you have an elected position, even with something that's sort of meant to be apolitical and external to local politics, it's still beholden to local politics, particularly party politics. The role of the sheriff and the mayor, they essentially work together in crafting our crime prevention strategies. The mayor writes the budget. The mayor liaisons with the sheriff to ensure they get all the resources they need. Most city employees fall under one particular union. The police department has their own union, so does the fire department. And if you look around the country, law enforcement, police unions are some of the most powerful unions in the country, right up there with the Teamsters, the IBEW, the Electrical Workers Union, the Boilermakers, the welders and such, and of course DTU, our beloved Duval Teachers United. The next sheriff's election will be held in 2023. As you know, all of our elected offices all come up for grabs at the same time in the spring of 2023. Sheriff Williams is he's term limited, so he's not going to be running for sheriff again. The previous sheriff, John Rutherford, as you know, is currently serving as our council representative, our congressional representative in Congressional District 4. The upcoming sheriff's election features at least two actual police officers running for sheriff, and they're both black, which is interesting. The first one to really fall in was a lady named Lakeisha Burton. Lakeisha Burton is a veteran JSO officer, a black woman. Her husband is currently, I believe, the chief. I want to say chief, but the guy in charge of the police officers in our schools. I can't remember the exact term for that. But she's running against a guy named T.K. Waters, who is something of a local legend in this community, chief of detectives. He's been out in these streets for a very long time. And our sheriffs do tend to be people with heavy on-the-street experience. You know, a guy like Mike Williams, who was our Homeland Security liaison, who previously ran the SWAT team. And then, of course, a guy like Nat Glover, who was a guy out on the streets for many, many years. Once we get through that next election, there will be some things to talk about, particularly the subject of a citizen review board of overseeing police misconduct. We have those in certain other cities, and the amount of legal authority that they have, it depends on the particular community. There's a lot of police resistance to something like that. Of course, you never want somebody looking over your shoulder when you're trying to do your job. But at this time in history, something like that would go a long way towards healing some of the divisions racially and politically in this community. This is a situation that is, of course, unfolding. We're not even going to talk about crime except to say that crime is up, violent crime has been up, homicides have been up around the country for years now, and it's really getting out of control. There's no police force in this country that has a handle on what's going on in the streets, and we're going to see how that plays out in the weeks, months, years ahead, and you'll all be here with us. So this was Bold City Civics. We are talking about the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. As always, follow us on social media. Follow us, listen to our podcast wherever you can find your podcast at. And if you ever have any questions, concerns, or suggestions for topics, feel free to reach out to us. All the necessary contact information can be found somewhere in the vicinity of the button you push to launch this program. Once again, this is Bold City Civics. My name is Shelton Hull. I'm joined by our founder, Mr. John Lewis Meeks Jr.
Greetings and salutations.
Greetings and salutations. Thank you so much for your support. Have a happy holiday season, whatever holidays you celebrate, even if you don't. We'll be back once again in early January with more episodes of Bold City Civics. Thank you all so much. Have a good day.